Hello everyone, welcome back to another PowerShell tutorial, and in this tutorial we will learn about loops and statements. So let's just jump in. So loops, for those are not familiar with loops, whenever we need to repeat some process of time and time, we use loops. So consider an example. Let's say I have an array that is a names array. So let's say I want to print each of the name with the greeting. So let's say I want to greet to all of them, like I want this like hello Chuck, and then hello Bob and John and David. So how would we do that manually? That is like code repetition. Each time we want to greet someone, we will have to write that manually. Like here we can use the name index like this. I will pass the index, that is names array, and if I come here and execute stage 9.ps1, which is going to work fine, and we will do the same for um, names 1, names 2, and names 3. Here we have these indexes. So now this is like code repetition. So what if I want to do this with one line? That is possible now with loops. So the first loop that we're going to be practice with the for each loop. So that is for each, and here we will pass like name and dollar names array, and then I will just print out the name variable like so. I will remove this now, name in small case. Now if I come back here and execute, as you can see, we got the same result with only one right host statement. So now we don't need to repeat the code again and again. All we need is just add the name that we want to print. So let's say I want to add my name, and I will come here. As you can see, it does displays that. So that is why we use loops, and whenever we need to repeat some process, we use loop to automate that process for us. So that is one loop for each with the array of strings like this. Now this is not just related to strings array like this. We can use it in many cases. So I will comment. Let's remove this one. Let's say I want to print numbers from 0 to 100 without writing number 1, number 2, and number 3, and so on. So let's say I want to automate it. For that I can do like num n 0 dot and 100, and then close that, and here we will have number like this and start the loop like this. And if I remove this, save it, come back to PowerShell and execute stage 9. As you can see, it displays hello with 100 times. Now we can store them in the array as well. So let's say I have array name numbers, and this is empty array, and I want to add these numbers to it. So I can do like numbers plus equal to, and the number that is each of this number, and at the end I can print the array. So either write host it or directly just write the name of the array. So if I come back to terminal and execute, as you can see, it does display that. Then we have for loop. So if you know about any programming language, for loop is the most used loops on any programming language. So it has 3 steps. The first step is the initialization, then condition, and then increment or decrement operator. So here it auto completed that. So let's say I want to print some numbers from let's say 0 to 100, or even I can loop through these array, just like we did in the for each loop. So in that case, what we would do is we will initialize a variable, let's say I, that is considered an iterator, and then the initial value is 0. So and then we are the second statement is the condition, right? So the condition is I is less than array dot count. So array in this case is names, and then I plus plus, this is the increment operator. We will talk about this later on as well, or let's just do it. The increment operator, we have postfix as well as prefix operator. So let's say I have a variable, let's say x, whose value is 1, and now if I do increment operator with prefix, that will become 2. So if I do x, now as you can see, the value is 2. And then we have suffix. So one is prefix, one is suffix. Now all depends on the increment operators, that is this one. So if I do this, and if I print the value of x, it is now 3. So the difference between suffix and postfix and prefix is that this is incremented after the statement is executed, and the postfix mean that first it is incremented and then the statement is executed, that is inside the for loop. So now we can do the same thing as we did before. I can loop through that, and I can display hello and then the names array like so, names, and then the index in this case will be $I, which is the index from 0 up to 4, in this case 0 1 2 3 and 4. So if I save this, come back to the terminal and execute stage9.ps1, throws error. Oh yeah, this is array with the $sign, and now here we have the same result. Then we have for each method. So if I we have discussed in the previous videos that we can use the ps item or $_. So here it comes. If I want to use that, I can do that as well. If I do like names, that is array, and then for each of that array I want to do some operations. So if I do come here, start the method that is for each, and if I want to just write host, that the same thing, that is hello, and then the name from that array, so $names, and then index. Oh yeah, index. So in this case this is the same thing. If I close this in, let's see if that is going to work like this. If I save this, come back to the terminal, executing stage9.ps1, as you can see it does returns the index value actually. So here we have talked about this variable, that is a special variable. The actual name is $ps item, but instead of writing the whole ps item, we can use the $_. So if I remove that with the ps item and come back to the terminal and execute, as you can see we got the same result. So that is the another loop that we can use in PowerShell. Another type of loop in PowerShell we have is the pipe operator and then passing the loop. So as we saw in the previous videos that we were piping the result to a loop and then printing them, so we can do that right here as well. So that is for each object. It auto completed that, so now it's gone. For each object, that is this one. Here I will start curly braces, and now this will have the same result as we saw before. So I can write host the greetings like hello, and then the ps item variable that is going to contain each of the, or even $_ as well. So if I save this, come back to the terminal and execute stage9.ps1, we got the same result. Let's use the ps item, and as you can see we got the same result. And before this we saw the for each loop, so that is actually the alias. If I can write it for each, and if I hover over this, as you can see for each is an alias of for each object. So we can use either the for each object. Let's try this as well. We can either use the for each object or for each, that is the alias of for each object. Then we have while loop, which we can't ignore. So if I, let's say, create a variable, let's say number, and that is equal to currently 0, and I want to loop in while loop we have a condition and then the statement. So if I say the whenever the number is greater than 10, greater than, not greater than, less than 10, then execute this. So all you do is let's say just write the number. So this will write the number, and then we have to do the increment or decrement operation. So in this case we should increment this, because we have 0 and this will be looping from 0 up to 10. So if I save this, come back to the terminal, clear the screen, and execute a stage9.ps1, we got the numbers from 0 to 9. So that is the while loop in PowerShell. Then we have do while loop, so that is pretty much the same, and except the condition is at the end. So in the do while, first we have the statement like this, and at the end we have the condition. So I will do this, and the increment and decrement operator is inside the do body. So here I can write that number, and until the while the number is less than 10, this loop will be executing. So if I save this, come back to the terminal, and as you can see, it returns the numbers, that is numbers from 0 to 9, because whenever it becomes 10, 10 is not less than 10, so it exits from this loop. Then we have do until. So it is pretty much the same as do while, except here we write until. So it will execute this block of code until this condition is met. So now this will do the same thing. If I come here and execute, it is executed only once. If I do greater than 10, it will execute that. So this is like the reverse of do while, because it will execute the block of code until this condition is matched.